welcome into the Sad Fan, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything that made you sad from the previous week. And as we prepare on this Thursday, this 49ers versus Seahawks Eve, we've got to talk about the Mets. I know. I mean, after such an exciting football weekend, everybody wants to talk about baseball. So the Mets.
No,
the Mets have made it.
About the Mets.
So the Mets have made it to the NCLS. This is what's crazy about that. They were the worst team in baseball. Okay, the absolute worst team in baseball. Not worse than the White Sox. So if you're gonna come at me with the White Sox, I get it. The White Sox. Okay, they're historically bad. But the Mets, after having one of the biggest payrolls in all of baseball, were a laughingstock. The announcers were giving up on them. The commentators were saying, what is going on here? This is the worst team in baseball. And then, about 4 months ago, they started crushing it, winning games. And then the winning hasn't stopped as they have made it to the NCLS. And Wes, you got to know. Wes, what started this whole winning streak? What was the catalyst that sparked this fiery drive to the NCLS? Do you know what it was?
I think it was the pitcher they got, wasn't it?
Which pitcher?
Jeez, I just saw his name. I can't remember it right now. But they got a big pickup.
Did he work at McDonald's before this?
Probably.
You think? Okay.
So, I don't know.
Wes, we've been doing this show now. We're in our third season. This is the fourth episode of the third season, and you still don't get the show, Wes. So here's the thing.
No.
Obviously, I'm going somewhere with this that you're not expecting. Because yes, the answer is yes. He did throw out a first pitch. He did work at McDonald's. You know who kicked off this whole winning streak, Wes? Do you know who's responsible? A big purple mascot from McDonald's by the name of Grimace. Did you know that?
No.
You better Google Grimace Mets right now so you can read all about Grimace and the Mets. You better find out, and you'll see right now that they welcomed Grimace back onto the subway after the game this evening, or pardon me, before the game this evening, and they were jumping up and down on a subway with Grimace. Yes, wow. Grimace.
You can tell how much I pay attention to baseball when the Mariners are done.
Yeah, and it's fair. That is your squad, and they make you sad. The A's make me sad. I don't talk about the A's on this show. I haven't talked about the Raiders this season at all. We're going to talk a little bit today. But, yeah, it was Grimace. It was a McDonald's mascot that kicked it off. And there were announcers that take their sports way too seriously, which I don't know if you know. I know my stuff as it pertains to sports, but Wes takes it significantly more seriously than I do. He plays it off like he does it because he doesn't like the hurt and the pain that he feels when the Mariners let him down or when the Kraken lose game 1 of the NHL. Luckily, it's a long season. Welcome back, hockey, by the way. But he hates it. You should see this guy mope around the house when Oregon loses, okay? It actually impacts him in a very physical way. But the Mets use the power of Mickey D's and the Grimace. Did you look it up? Did you get to read about it?
I did.
All right. Can you believe it? Am I lying or am I correct, Wes?
I mean, that's great. I just wish we could have our own good luck charm for the Mariners. Instead, we had a really good record through the first 3 months, and then we completely shat the bed afterwards. So that's cool. I like that some teams are able to make a good old mid-season turnaround and have postseason success. Good for them.
Thanks to the Mickey D's, baby. You got to get Grimace. You got to get a big purple mascot on your side. Is Barney available?
I mean,
Barney is available for the Mets or for the Mariners.
We have Ronald McDonald show up, and then we would go winless for the rest of the season.
It would just be a bad look, I guess. It would just be. And you guys have a lot of cool nights over at that ballpark. If you've never been to a game. There are some bad views in Seattle, I will say that. There are some areas of that stadium where you might be behind a pillar, almost like at Fenway Park. But it's a good stadium. It's a fun environment. And I don't know if I want Ronald McDonald out there around a bunch of dogs on dog day. Because I know the Mariners Park does bring your pet to the park day, right?
Yeah, bark at the park.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. That might creep out your dogs. How many dogs do you have now, Wes? 3, 6, 7?
Two?
Okay. Sorry, they're just.
I mean, one's 90 years old, but hey.
Yeah, they're just always around you. So I just figured there was 19 of them. So as we
The same amount of dogs as you, okay?
don't dog shame me. Did you just accuse me of dog shaming just now? I think that's what that last shot was.
You're just mad because my favorite dog would beat the crap out of your dogs.
We had a crazy football weekend, as we alluded to at the beginning of the show. It was absolutely insane. And we're going to start in the NFL, and then we're going to get to college football because I need to keep you all on the ropes for this because college football had a crazy day Saturday. And I'm not just going to call it upset Saturday. I'm going to call it disaster Saturday for so many different teams. The SEC.
Disaster.
Oh, my goodness. SEC and all the crybabies calling in.
This year has 12 playoff teams. Otherwise, they would be in trouble.
They would. The SEC would be calling up the commission, the playoff commission, and saying, hey, you know the SEC needs to be here. We got to figure something out. Can't we work something out? Maybe the SEC champion. But that I think we're going to talk about that in a bit. Anyway, you're going to get me off track. We started off this football week, Wes, with the Falcons Buccaneers. And obviously, Funk Master Kurt went crazy. We all predicted that, right? Kirk Cousins is going to go absolutely batshit in Atlanta. He's going to be the best quarterback ever. We all predicted it. We all knew it. We all knew Penix was never going to see the field.
I mean, he wasn't bad with the Vikings. I mean, it's clear Kirk still's got some left in the tank. All right.
Wes, I'm pretty certain he tore his Achilles tendon with the Vikings the last year.
Yeah. But he was still good before that. I mean, obviously, he's not going to play after he tears his Achilles. But, like, yeah, it's clear he's still got stuff left in the tank. And Kirk was not very good to begin his career. And I feel like he just gets better as he gets older.
I don't know if he wasn't very good. We just make fun of him because of primetime games. He never seemed to win a primetime game. He was a loser. Oh my gosh, there's a great interview, by the way, and I don't mean to get sidetracked, but there's a great interview that happened on the Le Batard show with Robert Griffin III, where he blamed the coaching staff on the then Washington Redskins on his struggles. And here's why it's funny, and again, we're going to come back to this Kirk Cousins Buccaneers game. Here's why it's funny, Wes. Do you know who was on that staff with Mike Shanahan?
No.
Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, the Bengals coach.
Staff.
Yeah. So everybody looks at that staff and goes, "What are you talking about, Robert? That staff was cooking. That staff now has, I think, like 3 Super Bowls between them.
That's nuts."
So it got crazier. Like the more names you read off that was on that staff.
They did nothing with all that talent.
Yeah, and that's what Robert Griffin III says it about them. He says, they did nothing with this talent. I was so talented. And I'm like, bro, hindsight is not working for you here. Because in hindsight, perhaps you were the problem. Maybe it was you, Robert.
I mean, to be fair, he was pretty good up until he tore both of his ACLs or something like that on the crappy FedEx turf.
He tore his ACL, yeah, and it was right at the end of his rookie season, I want to say, and it was all downhill from there. But you know my feelings about Robert Griffin III if you listen to our show. I don't like RG3. I don't like his personality. I think he's an attention-seeking person that doesn't actually have an opinion on anything. I think he farms out his work to his audience. Yes, he's got a lot of followers. That's going to happen when you make it on ESPN. But he thinks he made ESPN, and they fired his ass. Why? Because he's not good at his job. He doesn't have an opinion. He just, whatever's popular, that's what I am. I'm the popular thing. It's stupid. Anyway, do the unpopular thing sometimes.
I think it's just his takes on Twitter that make him popular.
They're bad. I follow him on Twitter.
Well, yeah.
Anyway. But I'm not somebody that harasses him on Twitter about being an idiot. Yeah,
gets people clicking.
No, he gets people clicking because he was on ESPN. Now he got all the followers, and you're inflating it. All right, ESPN is the machine that creates. That's really the truth.
Oh,
if you make it to ESPN, you've probably made it for at least the next 5 to 10 years. A lot of your career is made when you're on ESPN. All right, but Kirk Cousins was not thought of as a savior in Atlanta. No one looked at him as a savior. He got paid like one, but I don't think any real sports fan was like, oh, this guy's going to save this team. And now, as we make it this far into the season, Wes, is it looking like Kirk Cousins could take this team to the playoffs?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's because the Falcons have a terrible head coach, and they should have grabbed Bill Belichick when they had the chance. So
you don't like Raheem Morris, huh?
No. It was such a dumb decision to hire him.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, I mean, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but no, they're not going to the playoffs. There's no chance in hell.
Wes, you know who they have on Sunday, right? The Panthers. I'm going to answer that question for you so we don't have a long... They play the Panthers. So they're going to be at least...
Panthers are going to win.
You're insane. You think what? They're going to be on a high?
Any given Sunday, Panthers are going to win. Mark it down. That's my lock of the week. Panthers beat the Falcons.
So it's funny that's your lock of the week. But we're going to take that quarterback that came back from a torn Achilles tendon, and we're going to move on to another quarterback that moved on from a torn Achilles tendon, who got his coach fired after the game in London. That's right. We're talking Jets and the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. Wes, who had Sam Darnold and the Fighting Vikes being undefeated this year?
Not me. I don't think anybody had it.
So, Wes, you asked me in the production meeting, do I think that Aaron Rodgers is the reason that Robert Saleh got fired? Yes! Yes, absolutely he's the reason. They've given him far too much power on that team. He has no business being able to do the things he's able to do. He is not the same quarterback he was. He's averaging almost an interception a game.
He's middling at best.
He might be the problem. Because that defense was okay. They were doing just fine, and they were great last year. The defense was great last year.
He's a washed-up sack of shit.
Okay. We can always get Wes there when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. Wes will always go there when it comes to Aaron Rodgers.
Just go away, bro. Go into retirement. Take your millions. And
when do you think
alone.
You started getting irritated with Aaron Rodgers, Wes?
COVID, for sure.
That's it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
I think so.
You know he came out and said he regrets his statement, right?
About COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah, only because it turned everyone against him.
What is it? You're only sad because you got caught, Rihanna? Is it one of those situations?
Yeah, you're only sorry because you realize that people hate you now.
I mean, and that's where he finds himself. But if he can resurrect the Jets after the firing of Saleh, which they lost again to the Vikings are still undefeated. Do you think that could...
Shit.
But if he can, do you think that changes perception?
No.
Winning cures all ails, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe for Jets fans. I don't care if the Jets win.
You don't think that would be phenomenal if the New York Jets win a Super Bowl? You don't think that would...
That would be awful. That would be awful. That's
that would be absolutely insane. You know what would be awful, Wes?
If it's the Jets and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Wait, what? If it's between the Jets and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they're in the same
championship. I'm taking the Chiefs.
I was like, this is the same conference, man.
Yeah.
What are you All right, but let's as we pivot seamlessly from what that disaster could be or couldn't be, we'll see. We got to pivot to another disaster in the Bills. Buffalo, Sean McDermott. What kind of clock management is going on there? And you're on your own 3-yard line.
30 seconds left. And you throw 3 incompletions. Bro.
And they needed the timeout, too. That's what's funny, Wes.
Dude.
Wes, the Texans needed that timeout that they got to save. And they got to save that timeout because it was 3 incomplete passes.
Seriously. Well, they had 3 timeouts from the beginning, but if they just ran it 3 times in a row, they would have had
3 timeouts.
Yeah, that's 3 timeouts they burned. And they're probably left with 15 seconds left, if that.
Yeah.
They're not getting anything done.
It's
And also if you run it 3 times in a row, you're probably going to have a little extra room to punt it instead of being backed up against the own goal line.
It's the field position for me is what I was getting at. It's the field position for me. You really one, Josh Allen was clearly concussed. I've never seen a smelling salt cure a concussion before. Okay, right. I've never seen that happen. So he was clearly concussed. So you've got a concussed quarterback that's throwing the ball, and not concussed, it's even dangerous. But I know Josh Allen's got an arm, right? He could throw the hell out of that football. But at the end of the day, you weren't in a position where he was healthy. You weren't in a great spot as far as field position was concerned. You're going to have to punt it back. You don't have the best punter in the world, and they only need a field goal to beat you. Like, you've got to have better clock management than that.
Sean McDermott screwed that game up so bad.
He lost that game for them. All right? Just like Gardner Minshew lost the game for the Raiders. There was no Bo Nix winning the game at all.
Bo Nix won the game, bro.
As much as Wes wants to say that.
Nix. Nix, bro.
Wes, I got a confession.
You love Nix. I know. I know. It's okay.
The Raiders and the Broncos are two absolutely terrible teams, and that is a game that should only be shown in the seventh circle of hell as you are burning. Because, my God, both those teams are god-awful. Neither team has a good quarterback right now. Neither team has anything that will resemble what could be a winning season. And both teams just bored the hell out of the audience the entire game. All right? Broncos were getting destroyed in the first half. And then all of a sudden, you know what turned that around? You know what gave the Broncos the rally? Because this is the truth. At first, I was like, dang, are the Raiders going to go up 17-0 on the Broncos to start this game, or 17-3 to start this game? And then we get down into the red zone. The Raiders get down to the red zone. You know what Gardner Minshew does? That amazing quarterback.
There was a pick six.
100-yard pick six to the best cornerback in football. Sorry, Sauce Gardner. Patrick Surtain returns it over 100 yards for the touchdown, and after that it was over. It's like the Raiders just gave up on the season after that. It was terrible after that happened. Davante Adams doesn't want to be there. I don't blame him. I've said on this platform, I don't care. This team is bad. I think the Raiders fans are going to get a couple moments where they get behind this team because they do, like, beat the Ravens out of nowhere. But that's an anomaly. This team is really bad. Go ahead, Wes.
So here's the thing. I don't think the Broncos are as bad as you think. I think they're going to end up 9-8 or 8-9. They're going to be, like, right around 500 at the end of the year.
The Raiders?
No, the Broncos.
Well, the Broncos suck, man. I'm sorry, Wes. You don't watch them because you know what you were doing all Sunday? You were watching the Seattle Seahawks shit the bed in their game against the Giants.
How dare you?
True. That's true. What did they do that made you happy?
Are an all-time team, okay? They're one for the record books.
What did they do that made you happy? What did the Seahawks do that made you happy this weekend?
They did have a 102-yard fumble return for a touchdown. That made me pretty happy.
That gave you a spark of happiness in the first quarter?
It did.
So what did the offense look like, Wes, in that game against the Giants?
It looked really good, but Daniel Jones is an all-time quarterback, and it's just so hard to stop that juggernaut of an offense.
Without their best receiver. Because Malik Nabers is still in concussion protocol.
So here's the funny thing about Malik Nabers. I watched the Giants-Cowboys game, the Monday night game in Mexico, and the Mexican announcers, they would not stop talking about Malik Nabers. Every, 10 seconds, Malik Nabers. I was like, these guys freaking love Malik. I was like,
and he's not even playing.
Talking about him. I know.
He's not even playing.
He had no business losing that game.
Okay. You know what,
I'm
Wes?
pissed. I'm deflecting.
I know you're going to be upset by this, so let's talk about a game you want to talk about. Wes, you said in the production meeting another team had no business losing a game, and we're referring to the Cincinnati Bengals. Wes, you said the Cincinnati Bengals had no reason losing that game to the Ravens, which was one of the two most exciting games. The other one, and you guys are all going to be able to guess this, so I'm just gonna tell you who it was. Jaguars Colts, right? With old Joe Flacco and Trevor Lawrence at quarterback was the other most exciting game of our NFL Sunday. But why did the Bengals have no business losing to the Ravens, Wes?
Because they got a fumble at the very end in overtime, and that should have been it.
Put them in field goal, right?
Yeah, put it in field goal. And instead, they played for the tie. They didn't play for the win.
Essentially, by running the ball. No, essentially, they did what teams do. They didn't go for the throw. And you and I have talked about this. When you are winning a game, put up 100 points on that team. We live in a world now where a team can come back from what appears to be any deficit, right? Or it feels like that. And
Yeah.
if you're not just going to keep pouring it on, you're losing. You have a loser's mentality. Kind of like some Michigan fans we have in common. They have a loser's mentality, okay? And for me, I get it. A field goal wins you the game in overtime after that fumble. But don't rely on the kicker. Don't, and it could be you're so scared you're going to make a mistake. But Joe Burrow was playing the game of his life. Joe Burrow was crushing it in that game. Yeah, go for it. If anything,
Seriously.
what, you get the ball closer? It was and it was 3 runs right up the middle.
Yeah,
right
predictable conservative runs. Like, try not to fumble it.
What did Evan McPherson do? He went out there and he missed the field goal and they lost the game. You know who else lost the game?
50 yards. Like, 50 yards is not guaranteed, even in the NFL.
And he's a really good kicker, so I get it, but come on. What are we doing here? Let's get back to college football. Let's finally talk about this because we don't have that much time remaining in this episode. Cal Miami, Wes.
Everything set up for Cal to win. Cal was beating the pants off of Miami, and they blew it. They blew it.
Weren't they up by 3 touchdowns?
Yes, it was 35-10.
So we have the 35-10 score line. Where's the game being played? Oh, in Cal.
In Berkeley with game day. Their first time ever having game day there.
You nailed it. You got everything right. 100%. It was game day's first time being there. They were up by over 3 touchdowns, and they blew it. They blew the game. But Wes, in a classic ACC rivalry like this one.
Oh yeah, Miami Cal, big time rivalry. Those guys hate each other.
Things like this happen, right? Coast to coast.
It runs deep.
It's weird.
It took Miami's equipment truck like 4 days to get there.
It is
like Saturday night or like Sunday morning after like their last week game, and they didn't even get there until like Thursday night.
It's a weird season. The new leagues.
Cool. So we need to practice, but we don't have our pads.
Yeah, and it's a weird college football season with all of the conference realignment. It's so weird that we have USC being upset by, wait for it, not Oregon State, not Washington State, not Stanford. They got upset by Minnesota.
Minnesota?
Yeah, what? USC gets upset.
Matchup.
Okay, so I heard a stat, Wes, and I don't know the stat exactly, but something to the effect that USC hasn't won a game since 2012 in the Central or Eastern time zones.
Really?
Yeah, it's an insane stat. When I heard that, I was like, USC might want to rethink this move to the Big Ten because that's where over half their games are going to be played now in that time zone.
Because they played LSU in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
So Minnesota,
they don't travel very well, I guess.
They travel to balmy, cold Minnesota, and they lose that game. But wait, the Big Ten obviously then ran the table on all the new Pac-12 teams, right? There's no way a top 10 Big Ten team lost to an unranked Pac team. That didn't happen.
Michigan.
What is happening?
Like, no, it's too late, bro.
What is happening in this college football season? This realignment. It's so weird. We're gonna have so many weird upsets, but it is gonna be so fun.
Well, Washington and Michigan, I think, are very closely matched teams this year. Both of them,
both
of them were really good last year, but they had a lot of turnover. They lost their coaches. They lost like 75% of their players. I mean, that's what happens when you get your coach poached.
Poached, or he runs away from the NFL because Connor Stalions ruined his career. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be a variety of things.
Yeah, or the coach could go to Alabama and win against Vanderbilt.
We would hope. But as we talk about that hasn't happened since the 80s, by the way.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt hasn't beat Alabama since the 80s.
I think it was like 21 years.
I think it's 1984 was the last time Vanderbilt.
So 31 years. Yeah.
Is it 31 or almost 40 years, Wes?
Oh.
1984.
Jesus. Yeah, 40 years. Older than me. God.
We're getting old.
That was like 30-something years ago.
Yeah,
No,
right? So,
sucks.
so I got to ask you a question about this game, Wes. It's very important. What is Tennessee's obsession with throwing field goal posts into bodies of water?
They got rivers. They got rivers there, and field goal posts like rivers. I think they float. I think. I'm not sure, but
I've never done it. There's a funny video, Wes.
good
If you
for
watch,
adult students, like have fun. That's like a once in a generation win for them.
it really is, and I think they carried it down Broad Street, right? I think they carried the field goal post down Broad Street. Which, what a cool place to go to college. Like, we can make fun of Vanderbilt all you want, but that's a pretty popping place to go to college.
Yeah, Nashville.
Now, yeah, and it's one of the best. It's one of the best, or it wasn't Broad Street. It was like, was it Broad Street? It's like one of the main streets in Nashville. But anyway. So, and it's a great school. There's a video though that's on social media. They're carrying the goalpost, and one of the guys carrying the goalpost, he says in the video, "I don't even go here." If that's not college football, if that's not college football, man, I don't know what is. Like, just some random from the junior college down the street.
Right. Or some dude who graduated like 30, 40 years ago. He's like, I never had to storm the field while I was in school. I'm doing it.
I'm doing this right now, and you guys are gonna live with my decision. Okay? This is something that I always wanted to do.
His wife is in the stands like, what are you doing, Jacob? What are you doing? You're too old for this. You're going to break a hip.
I mean, let's, yeah, I'm just going to break a hip. Wes.
Well, so hold on. Have you seen footage from the last time Vanderbilt rushed the field?
No.
They rushed it single file.
Really?
Yeah. So this was a completely different atmosphere. I'm pretty sure last time it was like they beat Tennessee or something when Tennessee sucked. And like the security was like, "Hey, yeah, just go on, whatever." And they went single file, just walked onto the field.
You know what though? I respect that. I'm not going to lie to you, Wes. I actually have a lot of respect for that move.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? We're going to do this, but we're going to do this like intelligent college students that go to a great school. Everybody queue up. Queue up. Here we go. When you get to the 50, spread out. All right. So we've got very little time left. There's just far too much to get to as far as last weekend is concerned. We've made it to Thursday. Wes, real quick before I give you the floor, New York Liberty eliminated the Las Vegas Aces. You called that at the beginning of the season. You said New York Liberty are going to go to the championship. They are there. What is the final college football game you would like to talk about, Wes? Is it Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Texas A&M? Do you want to dive more into the Michigan game?
Oklahoma. I'm just kidding. We're talking about Oregon, Ohio State. Are you freaking kidding me? Number 2 versus number 3 in Autzen Stadium. Yeah. This is the first top 5 matchup in Autzen Stadium history. This is going to be insane. Number 2 versus number 3. I can't wait. I don't know who. Chip Kelly comes back into town. I mean, granted, he was there last year when he was playing for UCLA, but who even remembers that he was the UCLA head coach?
I hope.
This is going to be a slobber knocker. It's going to be a shoot 'em up, bang 'em up. It's going to be game of the year.
Are you going to watch this with a party, Wes? Is this going to be a party atmosphere at your house? Or is this one of those games that you want to be alone for?
Just put me in a quiet room with a giant screen and maybe soundproof walls.
A bucket of grapes, like a Greek god if Oregon wins, so you can have your wine and your grapes.
So here's the thing: I don't get upset with Seahawks football anymore because my expectations have been drastically lowered, like over the last decade, ever since we won the Super Bowl.
Oh, I thought it was ever since they threw the ball instead of running with Marshawn Lynch.
Well, yeah, but we won the Super Bowl and it's been down. That included the Marshawn Lynch thing.
Okay.
But Oregon, we got a lot of expectations this year. We had a slow start, but we've been on fire. We kicked the crap out of Michigan State.
Yeah.
We got Ohio State coming up. It's going to be a big game. Autzen State is going to be rocking.
I'm going to try to get Jordan on the show from Popcorn and Beers after on our next Saturday.
He's going to be there. Big news.
Jordan is actually going to the game from Popcorn and Beers. Wes, I'm going to leave you with a funny note that Nick Saban said on College Game Day last week to Marshawn Lynch. Do you know what he said to Marshawn Lynch?
Yeah, he said, if I was the coach, I would have given you the damn ball.
Yeah, he said, I don't always agree with everything you do, but one thing I'll tell you is, if I was the coach and you were my running back and we were on the 1 yard line, I would have given your ass the ball.
Yeah, he said, first and one in the Super Bowl, game on the line, I'm giving you the damn ball.
And I believe him, Wes, and I believe him. Just like I believe our audience is going to tune in to see your reaction next week to whatever happens, good or bad. You will see it here on The Sad Fan. We appreciate you joining us each and every week. We look forward to giving you an update after the game.
Go Ducks, baby.